Yeah, we had a great bath.
I remember these moments all throughout my son's first year when I'd look into his eyes and I'd see something in him that was different from the way it was before. And it would happen sometimes from one day to the next. It's hard to describe except to say it was like he'd achieved some new level of awareness. And now with our daughter Lily, I'm noticing those same leaps forward. One day she's staring blankly up, maybe at me, maybe at the light on the ceiling, hard to be sure. And then the very next, she's focusing on me, studying my face, absorbing my expressions. And then a few days later, she's responding with little expressions of her own. So today we're talking about these social milestones, as well as the physical ones, that your baby reaches throughout their first year of life. It's a common question that a lot of parents have because while newborns certainly are cute, the newborn phase itself can be a real challenge. And as humans who are programmed to crave interaction, we might find ourselves as parents wondering when this little person to whom we've devoted so much is going to start acting like, well, a person. So we'll get into how their senses develop and when you can expect to see them smile, hear them laugh for the first time, say their first word, and lots of other small but incredible moments. There's a great book called The Wonder Weeks that we referenced a lot while we were studying to make this video, so if you want to get much more in depth than we have time for here, be sure to check out the link in the description below. So with that said, let's get started. For the first year of your child's life, they're going to be changing and growing so fast that it will make your head spin. So my first bit of advice to you is to try and enjoy even the tough moments. Savor the chaos because it will all be behind you before you know it, and I'm sure you've had lots of friends and family members give you that exact same advice. But one thing that's interesting about a baby's milestones is that, as the writers of the Wonder Weeks book mention, they start measuring those milestones from the baby's due date instead of from their birthday. So if your baby was born a week late, let's say, like both of ours were, they would actually be a week ahead in terms of their social development. And this is because according to all the studies the authors of the book performed, they found that mental development begins in the womb rather than at birth. So as we go through these milestones week by week, keep in mind that if your baby came well before or well past their due date, that might have an effect on when certain things happen for them. So that's just a disclaimer, and again, these are guidelines. It doesn't mean that something's off with your child if they don't hit these milestones within the given timeframes. This is meant as a general point of reference so you can anticipate what to expect. The first month of our baby's life certainly feels difficult for us, the parents, but be assured it is far more difficult for the baby. For the past 9 months, they've been kept warm and fed on a constant basis, and now here they are forced into the cold reality of the real world where they must fend for themselves. They've got to generate their own body heat, figure out how to eat, make themselves comfortable, fall asleep. It's all very perplexing. So for these first 4 weeks, don't expect a whole lot in terms of noticeable changes, and don't expect anything in terms of social interaction. You may notice them starting to smile around the 1 month mark, but this is usually due to gas or because they're peeing or just because they're practicing moving their mouths in new ways. It's pretty difficult to smile at someone when you can't see them. And at this point, when your baby is born, all they can really see is light and shadow. This isn't because they have bad eyesight, contrary to popular belief. It's just because they haven't learned how to use their eyes yet. So they're going to spend this first month getting used to life outside the womb, which is going to involve a lot of sleeping and fussing because of all the new stimuli. So focus on meeting their needs and learning their likes and dislikes. Our babies were very different from one another. Xander hated being swaddled, while Lily likes it. Xander was a belly sleeper, Lily sleeps on her back. So pay attention to those little details because it will help you learn how best to take care of your child as they grow through this next year. After the 1 month mark, your baby will spend the next few weeks undergoing some rapid sensory development. They will generate their first teardrops while crying. They'll learn to focus at greater distances. They'll begin tracking movement, so you'll see them turning their eyes and their head to follow you or other moving objects that catch their interest. And perhaps most importantly, it's right around this period that babies generally have their first true social interactions with you. Their first social smile should come at around 6 to 8 weeks. And you'll notice the difference here from what you've seen before because it'll be a full-faced grin, including their eyes, and they're usually smiling as a result of recognizing mom or dad or another close family member. You might even notice them smiling to themselves sometimes when there's no one right in front of them, almost like they're practicing. From there, you should start seeing smiles a lot more often over the coming weeks, and eventually you'll hear one of the best sounds in the whole world, your baby laughing, but we'll get to that in just a minute. Overall crying and fussiness, while common in infants, is supposed to hit its peak in most babies around 8 weeks at the latest, so I hope you are fortunate enough that this is the case with your baby. It can be a little disheartening and frustrating when our babies are crying and we can't figure out why, so stay tuned to this channel because we're working on a video right now that we're calling the Ultimate Newborn and Infant Survival Guide, and we're going to teach you some methods for figuring out why your baby's crying so you know exactly what to do to help them. So be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you'll know the moment that video comes out. This stage is also when you can expect your baby to start waking up less often during the night and sleeping for longer stretches. And if you use the methods we're going to talk about in the Newborn Survival Guide video I just mentioned, you could see stretches of up to 8 hours a night this early on. Our little Lily is now 8 weeks old as I'm writing this, and she's sleeping from around 11 p.m. to between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. pretty much every night. And let me tell you, that is a beautiful thing compared to what it was before. So once your baby's improved visual skills come into play at this stage, they'll start noticing things in the near field, like their own hands. And that jerky sort of haphazard limb movement they were doing as a newborn is just starting to become more deliberate now as they spend time staring at their hands. They're also starting to notice heavier contrast between light and dark, so they'll begin to study facial features and they're beginning to recognize visual patterns. You may also notice around this stage that when you talk to your baby, they talk back. They're going to start producing short vocal sounds, cooing and gurgling, and you'll find you can have little chats or conversations with them, and I'm air quoting here. Again, this is a type of pattern that they're beginning to recognize, and just as they've been learning how to move their face and body, they're also learning how to use their voice. This stage is marked by lots of further sensory development. Your baby will start getting more vocal, introducing more variation into the sounds they make, changing pitch, changing volume, babbling in longer phrases, blowing spit bubbles, and just generally experimenting more with new ways to exercise their mouth and tongue. They can also focus at even longer distances now, and with their muscles growing stronger, you'll see them lifting their head and neck off the floor during tummy time and tracking movement more smoothly at a distance. Their hand-eye coordination is also developing as they learn to control their fingers, grab onto things, and adjust their grip. This phase is also when your baby may laugh for the first time. That laugh will likely be triggered by the sight of something familiar, a parent, a pet, a favorite toy, and once they've learned how to laugh, you may find that they start doing it for no apparent reason at all, just because it's so much fun. It certainly makes games of peekaboo a lot more enjoyable. We caught Xander's first laugh on video, and I've got to say it was one of those heart-melting moments you can never relive too many times. I don't know how many times I've watched this next clip, but it never gets old.
Look at my Bubba. There's my Bubby Bubba. Oh my gosh, he's laughing. He's laughing. Oh my goodness, what a sweetheart. Oh, look at you, Bubby. There's my Bubby Bubba. Oh my gosh, you're just the cutest thing in the whole world, Mr. Bubby.
Now that they can grab and hold onto objects, your baby will begin to experiment with how those objects taste by putting just about everything in their mouths, and they'll notice when an object they're holding is taken away from them. They should also be learning to incorporate the rest of their bodies, if they haven't already, into foundational movements like rolling over, which requires both arm and leg strength, and some hip flexibility. They're holding their head up on their own while sitting up unsupported, and they'll have become obsessed with their little feet, grabbing onto them and playing with them, and even putting their toes in their mouths with the uncanny flexibility that only a baby could possess. By their 5th and 6th months, your child is getting to the point where they can see as well as an adult, meaning they've learned to use those little eyes in all the same ways that you do. They are furthering their understanding of relationships, understanding music as a series of related sounds, for example, and babbling in longer, more sustained phrases as they work on forming their first syllables. At 6 months and beyond, your baby is reaching a set of milestones that will pave the way for major advances in their physical and social development. And apparently on this channel we've focused a lot on this stage because we've made several related videos for you to check out if you want to take a deeper dive into some of the topics we're about to cover. 6 months of age is the point at which it's okay to introduce solid foods into your child's diet and gradually begin the process of weaning them off of formula or breast milk. We've got a short video series all about introducing solids into your baby's diet that I'll link to now. 6 months is also a great time to begin sleep training, although some experts say you can start that as early as 4 months because your baby now has the cognitive capacity to learn skills like self-soothing. And you can give our sleep training video a watch here if you want to learn more about that. Your baby is also beginning to understand short sentences, though it will be a while before they can respond in kind. Baby sign language is a great way to bridge that gap, and we've got a video about that as well that we recommend you check out. Before your baby learns to crawl, they're likely to spend some time practicing early exercises like rocking, planking, sitting up on their own, and maybe even pulling themselves up on furniture to stand. So our video on the stages of crawling is right here. Mentally, your baby is beginning to understand the spatial relationships between objects, as well as the relationship between action and effect. They're understanding that they can make things happen by moving objects around, by manipulating interactive toys to make sounds play or other reactions take place. And as a side note, if you're wondering about teething and when babies get their various teeth, there's a pretty wide range with no specific month or week where it's likely to happen. So we're planning to do a video on teething which explains all that, but for now, just know that your baby's teeth could come in at just about any time throughout their first 2 years or so. Between about 8 and 10 months old, your baby may or may not hit one or more of several major milestones like saying their first word, taking their first step, and picking up food to feed themselves for the first time. The reason these are all maybes is because as babies close in on their first birthday, the rates at which they adopt specific skills or habits begins to vary a little more widely than some of their earlier milestones did. So some babies might develop faster physically, while others develop faster socially or rationally, and that could depend on any number of factors including their size, their gender, their personality, their body type, and so forth. So it's at this stage that babies begin to make associations between things like animals and their sounds. They also start categorizing things into broad groupings, and as they learn to feed themselves, they'll hone their sense of touch by probing at food items with their finger to gauge their properties. Other cute and fun milestones during this stage might include recognizing and smiling at themselves in the mirror, waving at people, beginning to favor either their left or their right hand, sitting down by falling on their bottom, and becoming more mobile as they learn to crawl and move around more confidently under their own power. Your baby's first year is drawing to a close, and you can hardly believe so much time has passed so quickly. Your child is probably moving around all over the place by now, crawling and walking at a basic or intermediate level, exploring and discovering and getting into all sorts of things, saying short words limited to 1 or 2 repeated syllables, pointing at things of interest, telling you when they want something, and copying gestures they see others performing, which, by the way, makes this a great phase to really delve into that baby sign language if you're using it. I hope that in the years to come, you can find little ways to make time slow down. For me, it's felt as though the hours have only grown shorter since my children were born. I often wish there were some way I could tap the brakes to make everything stay the way it is for just a little longer. Slowing time may not be possible, but I found that if I want things to stay the way they are, I need to be where the moment is. We are each, after all, the sum of our experiences, and we can't experience what we don't notice in the first place. Everything else needs to come second to the focus I put on them. If I'm attending to other matters, I'm not truly there with them. So notice more. Choose not to drown them out with distraction, because that's the only thing that will make these small moments last. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you have questions, advice, or tips to share, be sure to drop them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and you'd enjoy watching lots of others like it, we'd love for you to join us by subscribing to the channel. We're here to share our parenting experiences with you and build a community where we can all help each other grow and learn so we can be better and do better for our kids. Be sure to give us a thumbs up if you think we're doing well, and we will see you in the next one.